Hello, Alscians. Welcome back with us, Alsa Law Talk Volume 4, presented by English Development Division, Alsa Local Chapter Universitas Brawijaya. First of all, I would like to say hello to our loyal Alsa Law Talk listeners who are looking forward to listening to this volume. To you, Alscians listeners, how are you all doing? I hope you are doing amazing and in good health. About 4 months ago, Alsa English Podcast Volume 3, or now goes by the name of Alsa Law Talk, discussing the protection of domestic workers in Indonesia and the substance of Alsa Legal English Volume 10. My name is Zizi.
And I am Putu, and today we are your host for Elsa English Law Talk Volume 4. So in this volume, we will be discussing about the hot news that has been going around in Indonesia's mining regulations. Maybe y'all want to take a guess? Well, we will talk about Minerba Law, which is the main topic of Elsa Legal English Handbook Volume 11, titled Legal Insight into UU Minerba and its Implication Towards the Motherland.
However, we will not be speaking alone in this volume. We are accompanied by our special guest who is none other than Mr. Muhammad Rifan SHMH. Please welcome and give applause to our special guest, Mr. Rifan.
Welcome, Mr. Rifan.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, Mr. Rifan. Thank you so much and welcome to Alsa Law Talk Volume 4. To begin with, how are you, sir?
Okay, I think I'm a little bit hungry, I think.
The fasting.
Yeah, because right now it's fasting.
Okay, that is really good to hear.
Well, so today we will dive deep into the critical topic of the Minerba Law, or so-called UU Minerba. This legislation has been the talk of mining sectors because of its controversies. We are honored to have our esteemed lecturer with us to provide insights into this important subject. So, to begin with, could you elaborate on the history of UU Minerba?
Okay, before I explain about the UU Minerba or the coal and mining law, I would like to make a disclaimer because firstly, I will explain in the administrative law viewpoint, not in coal and mining law specifically. Firstly, the draft is amended by and initiated by the People Council in 2016, but it's still incomplete, and then initiated again by the governments in the 2017, and followed by the discussions, followed the discussion by the People Council in 2019 in the COVID-19 and so on, and it's was passed 4 years ago with the DPR discussion period lasting approximately the discussion or the talk over about this amendment in just 3 months. It's just we could say if Undang-Undang Minerba, UU Minerba or Coal and Mining Law is labeled as fast track legislation, so like the author's laws such as Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja and Undang-Undang HPP, harmonisasi peraturan perpajakan, the harmonization of the tax law regulations. And after the amendment in 2020, it's get amended again in 2025, 2025 specifically in the last month, February. That is the historical of our Undang-Undang Minerba or our coal and mining regulations. But all of the mining regulations so far have some kind of viewpoint. The firstly, or specifically, in what you'd say downstream hilirisasi, or
Yes.
how we as a country that become the producers of coal and mining, kita sebagai sebuah negara produksi, it's become it's have value add, memiliki nilai tambah, tidak hanya sebatas undang-undang tersebut atau kegiatan minerba, meaning mining activity. We just have to produce and products again. So we have the viewpoint is how the country is doing the downstream. Nah, And the point of amendments, the firstly is the certainly regarding the contract extensions, perpanjangan kontrak terhadap coal and mining activity. The second is definition of the business durations. It's still unclear about the law and the contract, how the business durations with the coal and mining law. And the third one is the implementation of the transition from contract of work, kontrak karya, if we could say in Undang-Undang Minerba, where the government and the mining entrepreneur or the miners is equal in footing. But after the Undang-Undang Minerba, the mining we just use the mining business license, atau we could say is IUP, EUP, izin usaha pertambangan and so on, where the governments hold the authority to issue the permits. Has not gone smoothly due to the ongoing existence of many contract of work, because in the previous years before the 2009 there is so much of contract of works that still not end in the 20 and 25. So it's the history of the coal and mining in Indonesia when we could see in the administrative law perspective.
Okay, so there was contract extensions, is not clear, business duration, and implementation of kontrak karya. Those are the three main points that are not clear from the UU Minerba, right? Okay, so next, let's discuss the effectiveness of mineral and coal mining in Indonesia. Can you enlighten us with how the UU Minerba could help accelerate downstreaming? Were there any significant policies that stated this?
Okay, so we could say if the coal and mining law in Indonesia could help to accelerate the downstreaming.
Yes.
But the mining law, Undang-Undang Minerba, specifically law number 4 in the first law, which has been revisited a few times, aims to promote the downstream processing of mineral and coals in Indonesia. But if you are seeing the price of hilirisasi or seeing the price of value add, it can't be found in every law, specifically in mining law or number 4 and the amendment. However, the downstreaming processing is not explicitly stated in the mining law. The change of the law are only mentioned in a few articles, such as pelaku pertambangan wajib melaksanakan kegiatan pengembangan dan atau pemanfaatan batu bara. So the viewpoint or the main point is the development and utilization of the coal domestically. That's why all of the coal mining activities, mining progress, we just have to using the price or have to know the price of pengembangan and dan atau pemanfaatan batu bara di dalam negeri. That is the main point of what is the how and why the revision of this law. And for example, the effectivity of this main point is when we say in the after COVID, in after COVID, there is a BEV, baterai elektronik fosil. Jadi kebijakan terhadap mobil listrik gitu. And because there is a policy about the baterai elektronik fosil, so we just have to maximize the nickel of our product. So nickel is a key material for the battery production. That's why the mining law it's accelerated by the process of the regulations. But the discovery of other element for battery productions besides the nickel, lithium. I think I remember the name of the materials. The name materials that more effective than the nickel is a lithium that are more effective than the nickel. So the nickel itself is reduce its value. That's why there is some narrative or opinion that the nickel or Undang-Undang Minerba, the revision of Undang-Undang Minerba, it's very late to doing the hilarizations. But there is some notes that the downstream processing is not only from the regulations. This not only depends on the regulation issue, but also the problem of ecosystem development in Indonesia. Even the regulations of Undang-Undang Minerba just doing some its point to doing the downstream, and so on. But the ecosystem development is still not going to intact. And the second one, there is also a viewpoint about the geopolitics, geoeconomy, and so on, about the position of the state is pursuing the resource. So something like that. Yeah.
So the ecosystem development is still pretty bad for right now, right?
Yes, of course, because as let me make the example. Misal, berapa kilang minyak atau berapa tempat untuk mengusahakan atau memproses hasil tambang sehingga dia itu bisa diproduksi. Jelas, ini saya menggunakan bahasa karena memang sedikit agak sulit untuk menjelaskannya karena pertama negara Indonesia itu memang diarahkan atau memang secara politik ini di luar dari pembahasan secara hukum. Geopolitik ataupun geoekonominya adalah Indonesia itu sebagai the country of production, the mining law, dan negara satu-satunya negara di Asia yang memiliki batas atau yang memiliki the capacity to doing the downstreams for its effectiveness is Singapore. So all of the country in Asia just doing its own call in Singapore to process, so it can be used to another sources such as battery and sun.
Okay. Moving on to the next question, let's discuss about the implication of this regulation. How does accelerated downstream affect the environment and social aspects?
Okay, when we talk about the mining activity and environmental and social aspect or social value, there is a key of discussion from the coal and minerals activity. The firstly is the pro-environmental protection, and the second is pro-mining industry players. So the question is, what is our country stand on? Is it pro-environmental protection or pro-mining industry players? Because when we see the substance of Undang-Undang Minerba, there is a few points that we could for the resume could resume. The firstly is the accelerated of downstream processing, or we could say is as a hilarisasi. The law does not explicitly mandate the hilarization or accelerating the downstream processing, but except we could see in the kegiatan pengembangan dan atau pemanfaatan. And the second one, the law itself is menekankan viewpoint dia menekankan proses value add or penambahan nilai provision and fiscal incentive in the mining sector. When we see the law itself in the text law itself, there is a 2 point. The firstly, income from Undang-Undang Minerba. There is a article that say if the mining industry players can get the incentive fiscal incentive when we doing the mining industry in our country. And the second one, that is located in the tax regulation of harmonization law, Undang-Undang HPP, where this law Undang-Undang HPP say that the export of tangible and taxable goods, ekspor atas barang berwujud, gitu, is subject to 0% value add tax atau VAT. Jadi untuk untuk undang-undang untuk barang berwujud yang diekspor, dia itu dikenakan 0% pajak penambahan nilai, or VAT, value add tax. That's why this is the key of acceleration of downstream in Indonesia. And the second when we see about the social aspect, it's very difficult to say, but because there is a potential of criminalization for the mining opponents. Jadi ketika ada masyarakat maupun pemerintah atau pihak tertentu yang protes atau tidak setuju dengan mining procession itu atau mining activity, there is a potential of criminalization. There is this provision raise a concern that individuals or community opposing the mining activity should face legal repercussion. That is in the articles 162 and 164 and so on. The second is the potential of criminalization of mining opponents, and the third one, the last ones, it is the how we could see about the effect of environmental environment as effect. The mining minimizing the obligations of mining company to doing the land rehabilitation, because all of the mining activity when the coals or the mining or the minerals inside the land is already empty, all of the mining company is have to doing the rehabilitations of its own land. So let's it when it's back it in the normal. Jadi ketika perusahaan tambang itu sudah menyelesaikan usaha tambangnya dan tidak ada there is no minerals inside the land, tidak ada mineral di dalam tambang itu, maka perusahaan harus melakukan rehabilitasi seperti wilayah atau ruang tersebut dia itu seperti semula gitu. Jadi berfungsi seperti semula. If the land of is the spatial ruang tersebut before is a function as a forest, sebagai hutan, maka ketika selesai mining, selesai kegiatan pertambangan, dia harus difungsikan lagi dan berfungsi sebagai hutan. So to doing some this action or this concept, the mining permits holder are required to guarantee the reclamation fund. Jadi ada uang jaminan ketika perusahaan sebelum melakukan atau sebelum memperoleh izin atau ketika sudah memegang izin. The question is, what happen if the mining company didn't doing any rehabilitation on the land? So the question is, what happen if the mining company did not doing the rehabilitation? Okay, if the companies fail to carry out the reclamations or not doing the rehabilitations, so the government will use this fund for the land rehabilitation. That's some kind of it is a final or complete administration product, because the company have the obligation to conduct the guarantee. Yeah. The guarantee of reclamation fund, and if the company, the mining company, is failed to doing the reclamation, so the government will use this fund for the land reclamation. But is it the amount of the reclamation fee or reclamation fund at that time that is given by for the government? It's still what should I say? It's still inadequate, or it still can carry out because the reclamations activity it's last for several years. Jadi bahasanya seperti ini. Ketika seorang atau ketika ada company yang memperoleh usaha tambang, maka usaha tambang tersebut itu bertahan kurang lebih 30 tahun. Okay. The question is how much is the guarantee of reclamation funds in the 30 years ago? And the second is, are the guarantee of reclamation funds 30 years ago is still relevant 30 years later? Nah, administratif proses yang seperti ini itu yang tidak dijelaskan atau masih belum dijelaskan di dalam peraturan perundang-undangan manapun. So, if we see the novel Tereli novels, the title is Jangan Pintar Teruslah Bodoh. Itu the cover from its novel is the face, someone else face covering its A and mouth. So, this novel is not a story about how the mining process become a dangerous or become the disaster for the child around the village. Jadi teman-teman kalau misalnya pernah melihat hasil-hasil tambang, saya tidak menyebutkan pulaunya di mana ya, tapi itu wilayah tersebut or the land covers. If we see the land covers, it's so much of full, terlalu banyak kolam-kolam yang terlihat dari atas langit itu. Dan itu bukan kolam, it's not a natural lake. Itu bukan danau yang natural, itu adalah bekas-bekas tambang. Bekas-bekas tambang yang terlalu lama terbiarkan, terbengkalai, siklus hujan dan lain sebagainya. Jadi di sana itu bentuknya seperti danau. And all of the children of around the village, it's usually playing in that lake. Nah, itu yang diceritakan di dalam novelnya Tereli. This is the how we see the social aspect and environmental aspect.
Okay, so it is still not clear about the administrative process on is the reclamation fund still relevant 30 years later, or even the social aspect, mining activity, protest could not, communities in the village cannot protest because the sanction and etc. So there is really ups and downs regarding accelerated downstream and mining in general.
Yes.
So what role does the government play in overcoming the impact of Undang-Undang Minerba on the environmental and social aspects?
Okay, what role does the government play in overcoming the impact of the coal and mining law in the environmental and social aspect that we just discussed before? So there isn't much of the discussions from these questions, because the main point of this answer, the main point to answer this question is consistency with the existing law and regulations. That is very hard when we see the law and regulations in our country, because the environmental aspect is very complex. For example, the law and environmental protection management, undang-undang PPLH itu. These regulations, undang-undang PPLH, have some key concepts, such as the first one is the carrying capacity. Daya dukung dan daya tampung, it's very complex one. Semua ruang itu memiliki daya dukung dan daya tampung. Semua ruang memiliki kapasitas lingkungannya sendiri. Kenapa di sebuah daerah tidak bisa atau tidak ada bangunan di atas 10 meter? Atau kenapa di sebuah wilayah tidak ada bangunan di atas 10 lantai atau 20 lantai? It's not because there is no investment on that area, because the carrying capacity of its area. Tanah atau ruang pada area tersebut tidak mampu mendukung atau tidak mampu menampung bangunan gedung. Nah, atau aktivitas lingkungan hidup yang ada pada sebuah ruang. And the second one is environmental inventory or environmental assessment. inventarisasi lingkungan hidup atau ILH. This substance, the environmental assessment or inventarisasi lingkungan hidup, is the key to doing the SILH or Sistem Informasi Lingkungan Hidup when we see the Undang-Undang PPLH and the other regulations. And the third one is Environmental Protection and Management Plan, or in Indonesia we could say is as RPPLH, Rencana Pengelolaan dan Perlindungan Lingkungan Hidup. However, these three key points, none of these three have ever been implemented by either the central government or the local governments. For instance, we can find any regions. Did we have any regions or did we have any local government that have a document of environmental inventory or RPPLH? Gitu. Sampai sekarang tidak ada dokumen RPPLH atau inventarisasi lingkungan hidup yang pernah dibuat oleh pemerintah pusat maupun pemerintah daerah, the central government or the local government. There is any of it, but it's just little. Misalnya di Jawa Timur sendiri yang memiliki RPPLH it's just 2 cities. The first one is Surabaya and the second one is Trenggalek. You know, that's why when we see what is the role does the government play in overcoming the impact of the coal mining and law in environmental and social aspect, the key is if did the city, did the state itself or did the government itself have a full consistency with the existing law and regulations.
So they don't even like consider into making these documents.
Yes, it's not. I cannot conclude that if they can do or they can't, or they won't make this document. The question is why they don't make this document. Is it from the fun factor, economic factor, or it's some or political factor, or so on?
That's actually really interesting to talk about. But the government really plays a huge role, though, regarding the implementation of this Minerba law, of course. Next is, I think since this law not only applies to companies but also communities, religious communities, which means that they can buy and will be responsible if they buy a spec in the mining sector. So how do you think these companies and communities should use the mining from the income from mining to achieve the objective that is stated in Article 33, Paragraph 3 of the 1945 Constitution?
Okay, so we just talked about the Constitution aspect in the Article 33, Paragraph 3 of Indonesian Constitutions. The disclaimer is community organization or religious organizations, UMKM or the universities itself, it's get the permission to become the player in mining and coal sector after the amendment of coal and mining law setelah Undang-Undang Minerba direvisi tahun 2025. The question is when we see the Article 33 Paragraph 3 in the Indonesian Constitutions, I think the subtitle is in here about the substance of Article 33. We have the key of considerations. The first is who is the truly get the benefit from the mining activities. Because when we see the Article 33, there is some headline. The greatest benefit of the people, sebesar-besarnya kemakmuran rakyat. So the question is when the mining activities become more wider, so we have the wider players such as religions, organizations and so on, who is the truly get the benefits from the mining activities? Do the local community enjoy the benefits of the mining operations? Because right now we just seeing the protest from the community in the area of mining activities. And the second one is, are the mining activities, both pre and post operations, welcomed by the local communities? So we just because these questions, there is some other questions again about the second question that you offered to me about how does the accelerator downstream affect the environmental and social aspect. I answer if there is a potential criminalization of mining opponents. So the question is, why this phrase or these articles is on the Undang-Undang Minerba? And the second and the last ones about the question is about how the Article 33 can post-mining activities restore the environment to the original state, to its original state, ensuring the sustainability for the future generation, as what the Article 33 mentioned to be. Because right now there is some of residue in the mining activities. Terlalu banyak aktivitas-aktivitas pertambangan yang dalam kondisi sampai saat ini itu terhalangi atau tidak dilakukan restorasi. Pertanyaannya adalah kenapa? There is so much of question marks, I think, in these questions. Yeah.
Okay, so from the last question, we can see or we can ask 3 questions about who truly get the benefits of mining activities. Can truly mining companies rebuild the land from the mining activity residue, and is it actually is the Article 33 paragraph 3 is included, or like it's actually implemented, right? So lastly, in your opinion, what are some of the main weaknesses in UU Minerba, especially on the changes that have been made in 2025 or the amendment in 2025? Are there any legal loopholes that needed to be addressed and or improved?
Okay, there is no much of the argument that I have. I can do it right now, but the first one about its weakness is the law enforcement. Penegakan hukum. There is still a question marks about how the effectiveness of law enforcement itself, specifically when the mining activity is become a destructive to the environmental aspect or the social aspect, because we still going to intake or we'll still going to talk over about the Article 33 paragraph 3 of Indonesian Constitution. Is it implemented in the Undang-Undang Minerba or not? That is what we have to know in the next day about how this Undang-Undang Minerba is implemented. And the second one is about its weakness is because Undang-Undang Minerba itself it's always get labeled as a fast-track legislation, or right now we just seeing the term of hide and seek legislation, legislasi dengan cara petak umpet. Nah, pertanyaannya seperti itu. Jadi ketika when we talk about the weakness of some regulation, specifically when we see when we talk over in the aspect of natural resources, there is always the environmental and social aspect that we have to talk over. Nah, pertanyaan selanjutnya atau jawaban selanjutnya adalah beberapa pasal-pasal yang ada in some few articles in this Undang-Undang Minerba. Is it the state is going to be the pro investment or the pro mining industry players, or the pro-environmental protections? Okay, let me say if the Undang-Undang Minerba narratively or got some domination of opinion in the side of pro-mining industry players, but we still have some regulations that prevent the domination of pro-mining industry player, such as Undang-Undang PPLH. That state if every environmental developments have to know or have to give the greatest benefit for of the all people, such within it's stated in the Article 33, paragraph 3 of Indonesian's constitutions.
Okay, so there are many or not a few weaknesses in UU Minerba, especially legal enforcement on mining activity, because it is also destructive on environmental and social aspects. Also, UU Minerba is labeled as hide and seek regulations. And what if UU Minerba is pro-mining industry or pro-environmental protection? There are so many questions about weaknesses, the weaknesses in UU Minerba. So that is the last question, Mr. Rifan. Thank you so much, Mr. Rifan, for sharing your insights regarding mineral and coal mining in Indonesia. Maybe that is the last question, and that is the last question for today's Low Talk. And before I end today's Low Talk, do you have one word or maybe a closing statement for today, sir?
Okay, I think there is no closing statement. I just want to state the keywords of Undang-Undang Minerba from our generations right now. Specifically, when we talk about the academic aspect, the first one is research, and the second one is development. Because these two keys to prevent and to analyze if we could see the balance between the environmental aspect, the social aspect, and the third aspect is the mining, I think, or the productions of mining and coals and something else like that.
Okay.
Well, thank you for the closing statement, Mr. Rifan. Okay, so as we wrap things up in today's discussion, it is clear that the regulation to this Minerba law have some pros and cons how it will be implemented with our social aspects and environment. Law or companies and communities might have to adapt with the upcoming news regarding renewable energy too. That has been a discussion. Nevertheless, by understanding this Minerba law, I hope we can appreciate the importance of this bill in advance.
Okay, Putu. So we are in the end of the session, right? So what is your opinion on UU Minerba?
I mean, it really has it has so many controversies, like the criminalization on the protest, and I mean, who will get the benefit since communities can join in to the Minerba law? Yeah.
Yes.
Who will actually get the benefit, the people or just the community? And that's something that has to be talked about.
Okay. About regarding the religious communities, I think it needs to be stated too that the religious community or religious ormas is not only the two biggest ormas. We have like so many ormas in Indonesia also. They can also get the IUP, right?
Yeah, permission.
Yes, they can also get the permission. So that needs to be that it is also a concern regarding the mining activity. So, are there anything you want to say? Your opinion?
I think it's too dangerous to say something.
Okay. Okay.
Well, we have come to the end of this activity, but don't be sad. We will certainly be back again in ALSA Low Talk Volume 5, which will certainly discuss other meaningful, interesting, and useful topics.
Let's end here. Wherever you guys are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you, Alsaians.